3 spots that will help you to run deep more often poker tournaments, to win more poker tournaments, and ultimately make more money. You don't want to miss it out. Exploiting big stacks, avoiding tough multi-way situations, and profitable gambling on the bubble. I will enlighten you. So let's get right into the first spot and stay tuned. The last money bubble spot will certainly open your eyes. The first one, playing aggressive against big stacks. I had this spot, the king jack off, on the final table of the 5K WCP main event with 4 million for first. And I got roasted for reshoving this. And I will show you why this is a good rejam. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of you guys are way too tight in those situations when playing against the big stack. Alright, so let's have a look. Obviously, in GTO, this is not a rejam. If we look at what under the gun is supposed to open, we see that clearly here in GTO, king jack off is just a pure fold. However, if we alter the range, because obviously I make an exploitative play here, we see that under the gun 2 in GTO is supposed to be raising 28.5%. And especially in big tournaments, that's quite tight, considering that he is the big stack with covering everyone behind with a bunch of short stacks. So most big stacks, most good recs are opening a lot wider here. 8-7 suited, queen 5 suited, king 9 off, probably most of the off-suited aces, which I also think are pretty reasonable to open since most players are way too tight on these final tables. And you can apply this to your $10, $50, $100 tournaments. The same concept apply. You will have a lot of scared money players there as well. And especially a lot of regulars exploiting that and are opening crazy wide, way too wide than in GTO. Also, let's have a look what he's supposed to call against my reshove, and we see ace-8 suited, ace-7 suited, which I doubt, to be honest. Even though I'm just reshoving 13 big blinds, I think I will be perceived as pretty strong here. But we're not going to touch the calling range, so we just rerun this spot against the new open raising range. So let's have a look. And remember, that's our GTO reshoving range, and this is our new exploitative reshoving range. And you see king jack off is a clear reshove. We see that 3-betting, we can also be quite out of line here if obviously under the gun is not adjusting now with his new wider opening range, because now he's suddenly going to have more off-suited aces, more suited, queen 5 suited, etc. So technically, obviously, he is supposed to be 4-bit shoving wider to not get exploited, which obviously is also quite questionable. That's why a lot of these small 3-bets against big stacks work really well, and you get these results, which very often are quite profitable. I would just be very careful against good opponents because they can adjust very well, but we see here the mechanics of this rejam. It's a profitable rejam with the new assumptions based on my experience, and if you watch those YouTube replays, you see that a lot of big stacks are way out of line. And I see a lot of you guys being way too tight, way too scared because the big stack is opening and he's never folding. This is where you can spice it up. And if they're open too wide, you need to reshove wider, or you're losing the blinds too often. So you need to force them to play reasonable ranges so you get more first in spots. You're gonna be the one losing if you're not adjusting good against those aggressive big stacks. Spot number 2, which is multi-way, especially in deeper stages, near money bubble, in the money, or even in more advanced stages of the tournament. I see a lot of you guys flatting a lot of hands, button, cutoff, hijack, which is totally fine when you have very, very passive and very bad opponents. But I also want to prepare you and open your eyes that there's certain hands that I truly believe that you think are no-brainer calls. So I had this spot here with queen jack suited on the button, and intuitively, because I was studying a lot of these situations, it didn't feel right flatting here or pipping this hand at all. So we ran this spot. We always import these kind of unique situations so you guys can also prepare in paired. And let's have a look what we're supposed to do here. And if we look into this range, you can see here MP raises, hijack call, button. We're basically never playing queen jack suited. We're just supposed to be shoving this a lot. And honestly, I do believe that especially in those more crucial stages, that a lot of players aren't even opening as wide as in GTO. We see here an ace-5 off. We see a queen 9 suited, king 7 suited. Obviously that would help defending or reshoving queen jack suited, queen 10 suited, etc. So here, if I would rerun this, as I would do with the king jack and make this range tighter, I would obviously get king 10 suited to fold, probably ace 10 suited fold, all these suited aces fold, and we probably play a very tight range of like 9s plus ace queen plus, ace jack suited plus, and maybe king queen suited, because that's how most players approach these spots around the money bubble. Remember, it was 20 out of 25, we were in 20th position, and I want to open your eyes to these multi-way situations, because a lot of you guys just, you know, call pocket eights, call jack 10 suited, but against somewhat reasonable ranges, and sometimes we play against reasonable opponents, they're just a fold. Unless you have a big whale in the hand, yes, you call, but I want to also show you how ICM and how these deeper stages work. And if you have access to pair, don't forget to check out the multi-way spots in general. We have a lot of situations, squeezing, facing squeezes, mixed stacks, final table, mid game, in the money, and comparing with final table, so you get an idea what to play from these positions when you have a race and a call ahead of you. Because I bet that a lot of you guys are just guessing, and this can cost you a lot of money, and you get into post-up situations where you could fix that so easy by just folding. And you can just click in one of these scenarios, you hit the quiz button like I do, and then you can just quick some of these multi-way scenarios and practice them with these kind of in the money situation or near money bubble situation. We're actually supposed to forward this and practice here. What are you supposed to do? For example, here on the final table, what's our range? So you get an idea. Wow, you see some of these crazy ranges, suited king X. We're not defending suited connectors. We want to be very high card heavy to just be better prepared for these multi-way scenarios. Now, the last spot was absolute bonkers. Ace queen on the bubble, and I bet a lot of you guys would just snap fold. We have 3 big blind, 4 big blind, 5 big blind shorties. We are, I think, top 3, top 4, top 5 in chips. The chip leader shoving, it was a turbo tournament. These faster formats are in general quite popular, so you might be playing them, and it's important to understand these short stack situations. So let's have a look what hijack is supposed to be open push here. We see around 60% with a bunch of short stacks. We're in the stone bubble, and we're in the small blind with ace queen off. And my first instinct on stream was fold, but then I remembered, because I'm studying, wait a minute, we call against the chip leader. We are one of the bigger stacks that allows us actually to call wider, because now ICM understands that against this very wide range, we set ourselves up to potentially win the tournament. If you're one of these shorter stacks, you're actually calling as tight or as wide as we do with 15 big blinds, or even tighter, because ICM understands that now as a short stack, the upside of doubling up is a lot less valuable. But us as a bigger stack, now we risk the same, we risk busting out of the tournament, but the upsides are bigger. If we double up, we're chip leading, we're gonna have a massive stack. So that allows us to do a profitable gamble on the bubble. And that's something I teach in the ICM paired in the champion sub as well, over and over again in those videos where I show you different scenarios. You call tight here, you call wide here because of this, this, and that. It's very important to understand the stack dynamics and how big the other stacks are and what you can gain if you double up. That's very important, and it has a big impact on your calling range. So enough talking, let's have a look into what we're supposed to call here. We see we call 11%, even ace 9 off. That's crazy, right? And with these tools becoming more advanced, it will help you to make more money. I know a lot of you guys, but I want to fold my way in the money. Shouldn't we just secure the first pay jump? No, you're deliberately leaving money on the table. Me making those calls will make me more money than if you just try to secure that one pay jump, all right? That's very important, and you need to be okay with potentially busting on the money bubble. But the upsides are bigger. It's worth taking the risk. It's profitable. It's plus EV. This is what matters. You are doing an emotional decision. You're afraid. You're scared of busting. You might look stupid. You might get laughed at. Well, fuck these idiots. We do what is profitable, and you can see that here. We are calling even king jack suited 7s, 8s, assuming that hijack is shoving this kind of range. If he's tighter or wider, we should adjust accordingly. But even against this range, I would bet. I did a survey, I did a poll, and a lot of people were like, queens plus, kings plus. That's ridiculous. So you need to be better prepared to understand when to be calling wide on the money bubble. What are the factors? What is our stack? What is our opponent's stacks? How does the other stacks look like? You can see here, despite having multiple 3 big blind stacks on a pure money bubble, we're still sending it with ace queen, and we're trying to double up. And To illustrate this effect even better is look at the button. He has only 4 big blinds and he's calling almost the same range as us with 11 big blinds in the small blind. So what is happening here? Obviously there's one more player behind, but now when they're 2 all-ins, the calling ranges become so tight, the overcalling range for the blind, that it's almost neglectable. But why does button, being so short and being so desperate, still call relatively tight for his stack size? This is exactly the fact I was just explaining, that now ICM understands, and I'm explaining this with very simple words, understands, hey, wait a minute, doubling up is not going to be very helpful for your situation. So our main goal is now to secure that 1 pay jump so you break even for the tournament, right? If I try to explain it with more logical words to you. But the bigger your stack as a mid stack, and you can potentially become a big stack or chip lead the tournament, you will be surprised how wide you're stacking off on the money bubble. And we see that here very beautifully, that because by logic we would assume, well, the shorter you become, the wider you call off. No, actually now the ICM pressure is similarly high on the button, but again the upsides are just not as high, so that's why the range is almost the same as for us in the small blind. I hope you learned something. I hope you will run deep more often, and if you like this kind of format, smash that like button so I know that you want to see more of that. And if you have similar spots that you don't really know what you're doing, what are those situations, let me know in the comments, and then I can pick some and I can make a video about it. But don't forget to literally smash that like button, and then I see you guys in the next YouTube video.